This is the Scaling Secrets podcast. Carissa Reiniger from Silver Lining is here, and Carissa helps small business owners make money doing what they love. She has worked with over 14,000 small businesses in 76 plus countries to help them build more profitable and sustainable businesses. So we are going to find out today about economic justice, about building our business and growing it, and everything that's involved with it. So Carissa, glad to be speaking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
And thrilled to have you, and thank you, and welcome, and everything in between. And so what is your current passion and focus? What gets you just super jazzed, excited, energized lately?
Oh, that's a good question. So I started my company 19 years ago, Silver Lining, and I don't know if it makes me weird or, perfectly aligned, but it's really the same thing. I have had the benefit of watching so many people accomplish their goals, accomplish their dreams. And I really am so motivated by the idea that if someone is brave enough to start a small business and then gets the right support, the right structure, and then has sort of the audacity to actually believe in the goals they have and, go for them, that they can succeed. And so I get genuinely excited about the idea that we can change the entire global economy, one successful small business owner at a time. And the play of these broad, big system change conversations, along with the real introspection of how we change as individuals and align ourselves to outcomes. I've been thinking about it, doing it, working on it every day for 19 years, and it's still my answer. I love it. It gives me a lot of energy and a lot of, optimism for the world that I think we can all create.
And I can tell you've thought about it because you kind of have all these sort of deep thoughts here. And what comes to mind is that you are talking about like the small and the large, right? The micro and the macro. You're saying that you dream big and you're all about changing the economy with all these businesses, but also that we grow as people. And so why are you called Silver Lining? What's the meaning behind that?
It's a good question. First of all, it's amazing that you picked out this idea of the macro and the micro, the dichotomy of it. My background's in behavior change science, and our small business growth program is based in behavior change science. And what behavior change science basically advocates for is that all of our small actions, right, add up to big results. And if you look at economic data and you think about micro shifts, right, you're not going to change the economy with one big tech startup. You're going to change it with a bunch of people becoming moderately more successful. So we are big believers that small equals big. Small is big. Anyways, I love that you picked that up. Going back to Silver Lining, when I started the company in 2005, I was trying to think of a name, and I didn't want it to be boring, and I didn't want it to be consulting-ish, and I didn't want it to sort of be something that we would expect. And I was explaining to a friend that I loved silver. I loved that it was so practical. We make money out of it. We make cutlery out of it. It's kind of so practical as an element, but then it's also gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's modern, right? Our most modern art and often amazing, beautiful jewelry or appliances, modern installations, modern function is often in silver. And so I kept saying that I want to build a company that is as solid and practical and durable as that element of silver, but that has this pizzazz and this flash and this, commitment to modernizing and creating something new and beautiful that is silver. And so that kind of got us on the path of, it's really hard to be a business owner, but there is a silver lining. And so Silver Lining sort of emerged as being the perfect company name for us.
That is a lot of fun. And that is the kind of business that we all want to build, right? One that is useful and practical and get us to where we need to go, but is also flashy and fun and exciting and all those things. And so you work with all these businesses. Where do you think people are stuck these days? Do they need the most help?
That's a good question. It's really interesting. At the beginning of 2023, we did a survey of all of our small businesses globally, and 76% of them said that they were worried about their mental health. So sort of like, one step beyond and more advanced than, I feel tired or I'm stressed, really genuinely feeling stressed about their mental health. I don't worry about the mental health because I think mental health is a very reasonable thing. It's a very treatable thing. I'm concerned for people because they don't feel good, but I don't worry that is an unsolvable problem. I think the deeper issue that we should all be aware of is that because of the stress that we've all been under for these recent years. And you could list obviously the number of factors that are causing that stress, right? The global health crisis, all the divide, the politics. There's so much that's in our system. What behavior change science and psychology would say is that when any of us are under that level of sustained pressure, our ability to make smart choices, to see the long-term future, to stay optimistic, those things start to degrade. And one of the things that I think is a requirement of being a CEO of a small and a growing company is that it's almost true that despite all logic and despite all reason, we have to stay optimistic. There's an audacity to being a successful business owner that says, I see things clearly. I'm not being Pollyanna about it, but I'm choosing to see opportunity. I'm choosing to believe that things are possible. And so what I see and what we're seeing in our small businesses, and even to a degree, I can relate to it, is that under this long-term sustained pressure, it's sort of metabolizing itself and showing itself in many instances as mental health issues, anxiety, depression. There is a risk factor that we'll lose that optimism, that we won't see opportunity in anything, that we won't be able to sort of keep doing the thing that seems a bit audacious, just because we're a little wore out. And so that's the one thing we've been working with our global community of business owners the most. And it's something I, as a business owner, am thinking about rigorously. How do we build the capacity, just very intentionally, to handle the complexity of these times so that we see it clearly, right? We make informed decisions with the reality around us, but we don't compromise. We don't let ourselves off the hook of staying audacious and optimistic and hopeful. And, but yeah, that's hard. I see people struggling with that a lot right now.
Well, let's get your help today on tapping into some of that audacity and that optimism, because you're making me think about this is the Scaling Secrets podcast, and you think about what are the commonalities, right? What's the common thread from all these people that come on and share their secrets? And this whole idea of the optimism and the positivity as it relates to taking the necessary risks seems to be really important, along with showing up almost like an athlete does and doing the reps and the training and the focus and just being there in the moment. And it all relates to your mental health idea, right? Of inner game. And you're not going to be at your best, and you're not going to work as a team or grow your company if you allow all of the bad stuff to seep in and you allow yourself to sort of settle into that average level. It almost takes it sustains energy just to get yourself back up and to be a happy and positive person. But as you said, have that be aligned with the future that is possible, not just all this random daydreaming. And so is there a path to do that when you come to these businesses, these organizations, and the mental health is not quite where it needs to be, or people just need that extra boost and that optimism, the audacity, the positivity? How do we get there? Do you have an easy solution?
I have a million answers to the question. I'm going to try and pick a good one. So I want to come back, if there's time for it, to talk about this concept that we talk about how commitment is a choice, profit is a skill, and success is science. And so I do believe that, right, when we are in a good day or a bad moment, right, being committed to an outcome, being committed to our own mindset, that is a choice we can make. And so we can come back and talk about that. But profit is a skill. It's possible to turn anything into a profitable business. I mean, I do believe that, regardless of external circumstance and economy and all these things that we like to blame it on. Success is science, right? We are not meant to do anything alone. Behavior change science gives us a formula for how we can optimize our behavior to get to outcomes. So we need structure and support. But the fourth thing we talk about, which is where I want to stay for a second, is the idea that mindset is a muscle. You talked about reps. We have a philosophy inside of our methodology that if we want to build a profitable, sustainable business, if we want to grow and reach our full potential, if we want to realize the impact we want to have in the world, we must keep a strong mindset. And a mindset is a daily practice, not unlike, right, if I do a big workout and I get a six pack, but then I stop doing that workout and I start eating brownies every day, I'm going to lose my six pack. So if I want to sustain it, I've got to continue this daily practice of, doing the things that allow me to get that physical fitness that we want. Mindset is exactly the same. So we talk about what it looks like to have a strong mindset. And then we have what we call the stages of stuck. And there are really simple ways to just sort of do a self-evaluation and then an intervention if you identify with being a little bit stuck, right? And being a little bit stuck means we maybe are not in our best mindset. So just really quickly what those are, stuck stage 1 sounds like, I'm so busy, right? We all walk around talking about busy we are. I would argue or offer that is actually at the beginning of getting stuck. That is being out of a strong mindset. The intervention of stuck stage 1 is that you need to basically go do a calendar audit. Go say no to a bunch of stuff that you've probably overcommitted to or said yes to. Often optimistic people, business owners are chronic yes people. We get excited, we say yes. And so when you're too busy, you're on the path to losing a strong mindset, and you've got to sort of do an early intervention. If you don't do that, you kind of fall into stuck stage 2. Stuck stage 2 usually sounds like I'm overwhelmed. I'm hearing that a lot. I feel like in 2020, 2021, 2022, I heard a lot of I'm so busy. It really is shifting in a general sense to I'm feeling overwhelmed, right? That sort of is like a cosmic sinking into stuck stage 2 in our methodology. When you're in stuck stage 2 and you're overwhelmed, what usually is happening is that you've set unrealistic goals. So maybe your goals are reasonable for the long term, but not this year. Or maybe you have ambitions for change, but the external circumstances are more complicated. And so the planning has to change. And so it's usually an alignment issue. There's something that's out of alignment in the goal and the plan. And I think what's happening for everyone, myself included, is that a plan that made sense a year ago might not make sense today because the world is changing around us. So we shouldn't tone down our optimism or our ambition, but we might have to, change course. We might have to rethink how we're going to get there. And overwhelm is usually a sign that strategic alignment is a little bit out of whack. And so we're fighting harder than maybe we need to. If we stay there for too long, we move into stuck stage 3. Sounds like I've lost my passion. I don't even care anymore. I used to love my business and now it just seems like a burden. I hear that a lot these days. The intervention on stuck stage 3 is a vacation. Usually exhaustion is at the root of losing our passion, right? It's impossible, Robert, that you or I just all of a sudden one day woke up and lost our passion for something that we're so passionate about. The passion is still there. It's just exhausted. It's an override of exhaustion that's over top. So we've really very genuinely been trying to encourage all of our business owners to take a couple weeks off, literally. Like if you feel like you've got no time and no money and you're totally exhausted and you've lost your passion, great. You need to go on a vacation. Like there's nothing more important than just taking a minute and going and resetting. And then the last and kind of final stage of being stuck is stuck stage 4, which sounds like I want to quit, right? We talk about, how significant the failure rate of business owners are. And I don't believe in any way, shape, or form it has to be as high as it is. And usually when business owners quit, it's not because the business isn't viable. It's because the business owner either burns out or they run out of money, right? They run out of the resources that they need to access to sustain continuing. And oftentimes what I see 99% of the time when someone really wants to quit their business at stuck stage 4, the intervention is they've lost alignment with their values, their mission, why they started in the first place, and somehow they've gotten caught up in just building the business, maybe in a way they didn't intend to, or for a customer they're not passionate about, or delivering something that they don't really love. And something has gotten, almost sort of philosophically out of alignment or values out of alignment. And in those instances, it's never about strategy. It's always about reconnecting to values. And if you can reconnect to your values and then align your business against them, it's amazing how often, instantly a business will turn around. Not because the economy changed, not because the business model even changed, but because the business owner got centered back into the core values that motivated them to start this thing in the first place. So that's probably a longer answer than you wanted. But the stages of stuck are really compelling because it just gives us an easy framework to say, am I in a strong mindset, right? Or am I walking around feeling busy, overwhelmed, like I've lost my passion, like I want to quit? And how do we not feel like desperate about those places, but just know that we need to do some interventions on ourselves to get us back to a healthy mindset?
That's very helpful. And I love the intervention concept and just knowing at what stage of stuck you're at. So you just how bad it is and how drastic of a change that you need to make. And so you're making me realize that there are all these times And you and me both, right? We can been all through kinds of ups and downs, and I've been at different points done some of these things, like the calendar audit, and said, what does my day actually look like? And I have been at the point of needing to take that vacation, and so you're kind of putting these building blocks in place and helping us make a lot of sense and thinking in terms of, okay, am I busy? Am I overwhelmed? Have I lost my passion? And do I want to quit? And that can be very helpful to just get a label on it, just to identify how bad the problem is, and then what we need to do as far as the realigning our values or whatever sort of intervention is required. And so you gave us so much to think about. And to help us really digest, what would help me is to get a story out of you, because you work with all these businesses, you work with all these people, and they've come to you and they've been just at whatever stage of stuck, and you've worked your magic. So does anything come to mind as far as a fun before and after story so that we can really get a handle on this issue?
I love that question. So I always talk about, we have so many incredible business owners around the world. There's a man named Frederick who owns a fitness business. And when he first started using Slap, it was quite literally, I think it was 10 years ago. And he kept saying to me, I'm not a small business. And I was like, you're definitely a small business. You generate income, you have something you sell. And it was interesting. His stuckness was really related to a mindset block, which was really about not sort of seeing himself a certain way. And as a result of that, he was always busy and he was always overwhelmed because he was always doing things that didn't really add up to outcomes that made sense for him. And so he really spent about 3 years doing Slap, saying, I'm not a small business owner. I'm not busy. I'm just like, this is my life. This is the only option for me. Like, this is what it's like to be a fitness instructor. This is how I have to live my life. And something shifted probably in about year 3. And he was like, oh, wait, I actually am a small business owner. And oh, wait, like I am in stuck stage 2. I am totally overwhelmed. I'm totally sort of out of alignment. I haven't even set a clear goal because I didn't believe it was possible. I have not aligned my actions against that goal because I thought it had to be a certain way because that's how all my friends do it or that's how everyone else does it. It really was this interesting story of watching someone not even accept that they were a business owner, even though they were. And as a result of that, have so many blind spots around, right? These stages of stuck, around setting goals, around imagining that they actually have agency over their life and they could adjust behaviors to get to the outcomes that they wanted. So when he finally had this realization, oh, wait, I am a small business owner. I am in stuck stage 2. Something happened. It was really profound. And again, it happened seemingly overnight, but of course we know that's never the true story, right? Seeds were being planted for 3 years to finally get into this shift. And over the next 3 years, he really did. Every single year, he set a clear goal for his business. He aligned his behavior against it. He got out of stuck stage 1, 2 very quickly, moved into flow, kept a strong mindset. And then the most powerful part of this is that COVID hit. And we all know that when COVID hit March of 2020, if you're a fitness instructor and you do 99% of your work in close contact with people in gyms, right? I mean, for all intents and purposes, the world has ended for you, right? There was, it's probably one of the categories of businesses that would have been dramatically impacted by COVID, revenue to zero overnight. And I talked to him in one of our community gatherings and he said, Carissa, do you know what just happened? The economy stopped, but I have not. I know that I have the ability to understand a target, move my behavior against it. And while all of my external circumstances have changed, I've got the skills to handle it. I'm going to be fine. And he made more money in 2020 than he had in the previous, any year before that, in the midst of a complete shutdown in the economy and in his industry in particular. And so I love his story because I love that it started with not even being able to acknowledge he was a business owner, resisting the idea that that's what he was, getting to this moment of clarity, and then building the capacity to be able to handle a very disruptive event and to not get stuck, to stay in beautiful, wonderful flow, despite, one of the most dramatic things that could have happened. And so his story makes me happy because I just think how many of us, myself included, are walking around with belief systems that are not true, that are preventing us from even getting the structure and support, right, to move our behavior. And I love his story because I really think it was like 6 or 7 years of small behaviors and building capacity that allowed him to be beautifully equipped, for COVID to hit. And so, I think we live in a world of business stories where we're looking for quick wins and quick fixes and quick success. And his is a story of little small changes, right, over years that equipped him to handle this incredibly complex and terrible moment that could have sunk him, and I think would have sunk him 6 years earlier, but he had built the capacity to handle it. So I love his story.
And I do too, now that I've heard it. I find that interesting and powerful. And there's so much in there as far as just the entrepreneurial toughness. And what I'm getting also from your story is it's really easy to tell yourself that you're so different, right? Because when we build a business and we're entrepreneurs, that's that's good to start off to get that, like the spark ignited. But then when it comes time to get help, when you're stuck, when you fall into these same pitfalls, it's easy to say, oh, I'm so unique. Oh, I'm definitely not stuck stage 3. That's not me at all. But then it's like, well, if you actually look at the ways you're holding yourself back, you look at those beliefs, you look at those stories that you're telling yourself, then once you admit you have a problem, then you have all these techniques to find your way out of it, right? To get some of this structure in place, to get this goal setting, to offload some of these tasks to your team. And it's all these fundamental things that we've heard, but we just need to actually listen and apply these things and tell ourselves that, well, we're not so unique and special that we can just live in the chaos. A little bit of chaos is good, but we need to have that calendar, those goals, those priorities, those deadlines, all those things in order to get to where we need to go. And so we've talked a little bit about some of these people that you've helped and gotten them out of these situations, but where have you struggled? Like, where have things been really difficult for you, Carissa, in the last 6 or 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, in many, many, many ways. I mean, I always say, to your point, none of us are unique and special, right? Each of us, actually, I should take that back. All of us are unique and special, but our struggles are not unique and special. That's probably a better way to put it.
You're unique and special, just like everybody else.
I like that. That's perfect. That's exactly right. Listen, the last 6 to 12 months have been insane, right? I mean, you could argue the world is falling apart in front of our eyes in many ways. We have customers in 76 countries on every continent except for Antarctica. And so each of them, and team members as well, our team is remote and fully global. So, we're experiencing a lot of the conflict in the world, whether it's political, whether it's economic, whether it's war, we're experiencing it in these very visceral ways in our community because we've got team members or staff that are physically in these spaces where there's so much conflict. Our revenue and our business has been really funky. Things that we would have normally have happened every year didn't happen. Things that we didn't expect to happen happened. And so financially we're okay, but it's been unpredictable. It's been different than what we're used to. So I've had to sort of figure out how to run a company that is not exactly following the patterns that I'm used to it following and how to respond to that. I actually, not to be dramatic, but I'm totally healthy, but I was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer in May out of nowhere and had to have major surgery to remove it. I'm cancer free and I'm so lucky because it was so solvable. But I had a health intervention added into my life and I'm a very healthy person. I'm not used to being slowed down by my body. So, I mean, the last 6 to 12 months, it keeps reminding me. And I think that this is to your point about staying humble. I've been doing this for 19 years. In many ways, I am an expert on, the things I am an expert on. And exactly like what you said is true. You can know everything, but it doesn't matter unless you are applying it, you're living it, you're, doing the daily reps. And so I have been really processing and trying to be very aware of, conscious about, what is the capacity that I have to build as a leader where I can handle unexpected interruptions. I can handle the complexity, not just of business strategy, but of humans and what they're going through and how to care for and be supportive of team members and customers who are going through hard things, but then also have boundaries because we're not a charity, we are a business. And so I have a responsibility to the collective to make revenue and earn a profit. And so I've just really been exploring that. Who do I need to be as a leader that remains completely human and connected to the values that I care about and the humanity that I care about, and also reconciles my responsibility as a CEO to continue to steward this thing, silver lining, in a way that is successful for everyone involved in it. So I feel like I'm curious more than anything. I feel like I feel like maybe even if I was being dramatic, like it's a moment of reckoning. What kind of leader am I going to be when it's like the rubber hits the road, right? It's easy to talk about the kind of person you want to be, but then you really get yourself into situations where you have to decide who you're going to be in those moments and how you're going to show up. So, yeah, that's been my real focus these last months is, who is the leader that I really am? What is the human I want to be when life gets interrupted, right? And I think the interruptions are going to continue. They're not going to calm down in the coming years. And so, yeah, I'm just thinking a lot for myself. What is the capacity I have to build in my skills, my humanity to handle the complexity that is going to keep coming at us, I think.
And for all we know, it probably will even accelerate, right? Will increase. And so,
Yeah.
so you're saying that these ideas of curiosity and awareness are so important, and just expecting the unexpected and becoming that strong leader that you need to be. And if you were able to look ahead 5 or 10 years from now and see the challenges that you had to face then, you might just give up now. But luckily, the 5 and 10 years from now does not come instantly. You have some time before then to make yourself stronger and to put in those daily actions like what you're all about, which is to do the small things that add up over time later on into big things. And since this is the Scaling Secrets podcast, I want to make sure that we cover that we talked a lot about that inner mindset, which is really important. But then as far as actually applying that to a business and growing it and scaling it and making it the size that it should be, so that way you can apply the impact to the world that you want. Do you have any sort of a scaling secret or a scaling tip to share with us?
Yeah, I love it. So I think it is that dichotomy we started with, which is in order to scale, we've got to do the small things. And I think that, again, we always joke that the company's called Silver Lining, right? There is no silver bullet, but there is a silver lining, right? People are looking for silver bullets. I want to instantly grow my business. I want to go from 50,000 to 5 million in 1 year. That's not going to happen for 99.99999% of businesses. But what can happen is you can go from 50,000 to 5 million or 20 million or 100 million over a series of years if, there are consistent, deliberate actions really every day along the way. And so my scaling secret is you got to start small. It's got to be a deliberate daily practice to do the things that will build a foundation that can scale, that there is no silver bullet, but there is absolutely truth that anything is possible. And so the things that I really believe matter when it comes to scale, and that I have practiced and I've learned from, is the idea that every deal matters. I think that we often fall into the trap of thinking if we can get one big deal, it'll solve cash flow issues or it'll solve growth or top line revenue or whatever we think we're going to solve. And my experience has been that for every one big deal you sign, you probably got to sign 20 or 30 small deals, right? Depending on the business you're in, or for one big order you get, you got to have a bunch of small orders. And so really honoring that all business is necessary and that we need to be focused on the small stuff in order to be prepared for and also have the revenue to the big deal. Sounds silly, but I've never seen scaling revenue work if there isn't this just deep commitment to of all kinds, even small amounts, in the pursuit of getting to the big amount. So I have a way more, but for this time, I would really just say that I'm a big believer that revenue matters. I'm a big believer that profitable, sustainable revenue as the core of scaling is critical. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've made this mistake in my earlier years, not focus on revenue, thinking if they just get users or investors, it'll magically solve their scaling issues. And I just think we're business owners. We've got to get back to revenue all the time. A sales call a day, a minimum of 10 meetings a week, just that real rooted, concrete focus on sustainable revenue in small chunks that adds up to the scale we all desire.
What I'm getting from you is that we need to show up and we need to level up and we need to even get excited about the small stuff. Like you see this where people get excited about small sales, or you make sure to be enthusiastic about something as simple as you being on a podcast here or a sales call, just knowing that all these little things will add up to the big things. And again, it keeps circling back to that idea, right? That if you just do these small, manageable, bite-sized things, and you develop the good habits, and you have a plan, and you just have this daily discipline to get to where you need to go, then it will add up. And the worst place to be is to be super far behind and needing to jump across a canyon in order to make your business survive. That's how businesses fail. And we want to develop these really good habits. And so speaking to that, I also want to make sure before we get to the end here that we cover this idea of economic justice, because I saw that in your profile on your website and it seems really cool, but I have no idea what it is. So what is economic justice?
I love this question. It's one of my favorite questions. I'm glad you want to talk about it. Economic justice is the idea. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of our work is about helping the all of our work is helping the micro small business succeed, the individual, right? That's what our program is built around. But it's because at the macro level, we believe that the way we change the economy is one small business at a time, right? The economy will be more fair and more just and better for everyone if many people succeed in the economy, right? Not just some, not just the rich that are already richer, right? But that if we can all participate in the economic growth and contribute to it, creates a more fair economic reality for everyone. So economic justice is good for everyone. It's nothing. There's, oftentimes people are like, ooh, I don't like that idea. But it's really the idea that the economy does not work for all, right? That the economy does have outsized benefits for those who already have some level of privilege or success. And it really is worse for those who have the least amongst us. And so economic justice is about trying to get to the root of all of the issues, the systemic issues that are at play that result in wealth divide, that result in opportunities not being fair for all, and really trying to create and fight for economic justice so that anyone who is willing to work hard and give it a go and do anything that someone else might do has a fair and equal chance at getting that, the economic return on that. So it is very deeply rooted in gender divide. It's very deeply rooted in race divide. It's really deeply rooted in sort of telling the truth about some of these biases that are fairly significant, quite frankly, that we have in our systems that have a very direct impact and result in how economy flows, right? How money moves. And then fighting those systems and saying, right, like we all win if more people are more economically successful. I always say, Silver Lining is not a charity. We are a business, and we believe that business is a tool for justice, and that those are not opposing ideas, right? So often people are like, Carissa, how can you have a business that cares about justice? And I say, well, because it's good for my business and it's good for everyone else too. And so justice is about more people getting opportunity and more people getting outcome. And so if we can use our business systems, transactions, deals, but how we pay people to create more economic justice, the whole economy starts to grow in a more healthy way. And as the whole economy grows, what happens? We all benefit, right? The stock market gets better and our investments do better and our banking is better. I mean, we all benefit from the economy becoming healthier. So again, economic justice is really the idea that you want to live in a world where, just like if you're born a woman versus a man, or you're born a person of color versus someone who's white, right? However you're born and whatever body you live in and whatever country you come from, you get the same expected return on effort, which is very much not the case right now. And so it's the fight for the systemic changes that are necessary so that we all have an equal chance of return for our efforts.
I love it. Well, that is an awesome cause. And you're so right that on the surface, it seems okay. And like the American dream and equality, and you do a little bit of research, look into a little bit of stories of this situation and that situation. And it makes you feel bad about America and all these things that you just didn't know about until you just looked into all these messed up situations. And there's way too much to unpack. We could talk for 58 hours about all the sexism and the racism, but is there like a specific sub cause that we can just mention for a couple of minutes here that you think maybe needs more attention?
Oh, it's such a good question. For this podcast, actually, business leaders, one of the things that I would challenge us to think about is really how to use our business as a tool for justice. And what that means specifically is that one of the real issues in how the economy flows is that people like us maybe build successful businesses, we scale, we get rich, and then we move our profit into tax shelters or DAFs or foundations, right? Things that will basically help us avoid paying lots of taxes on it. And then now our money is in the nonprofit sector, right? It's over there. And the only way to deploy it is to give it in grants or donations to nonprofit organizations. And then those grants are used in nonprofits. Those nonprofits have the mandate of fixing all these social justice issues, right? And if you think about that logically, it just makes absolutely no sense, right? We're taking money out of the economy, which is where we want more opportunity to be lived in, to send it to a nonprofit. And then we're charging nonprofit leaders who are lovely, but maybe don't know about business, to figure out how to solve small business issues or to figure out how to solve other issues. That's a business issue. So my challenge to the listeners would be to really think about how money flows and to really think about the power and the influence we have as business leaders. Imagine if we didn't get rich, move money into a foundation and then donate it. Imagine if while we had the money in our businesses, we thought about how to deploy it differently. So that could be something like the way we pay our employees. It could be about distributing the profit we make to our staff. If it's going to a foundation anyways, who cares? Just give it to your staff as profit share at the end of every year, right? Think about dividends. Think about supplier contracts, right? Money's more powerful than voting in many instances. If there are values that we stand for, if we care about the environment, if we care about, racial justice or gender justice, we can choose to buy from vendors and suppliers that align with those values, which in and of itself starts to change the economy and change the world we live in. And so I really, really believe that if I could, wave a magic wand or wave my silver wand, I would get the attention of successful business leaders. And I would say, don't get rich and then go put your money in a foundation and donate to charities. While you are actively operating this capital, while you are actively in the economy, keep the money in the economy, but be conscious about where it goes and how you spend it and how you deploy it to do good business, but to also think about the way we can create economic justice, just doing the transactions we're doing anyways. So that would be the hood I'd love us to look under, right? What are we doing as business leaders with the money we earn, the money our business transacts with? And if we just did a little tweak, we could be just as successful, but we could start to shift things without ever having to, make a donation.
I love it. That's an amazing and awesome challenge for us to just do things a little bit differently and change our actions just slightly to get this different outcome. And so you've given us just so much to think about, right? So much to think about changing the world on the outside and changing ourselves on the inside and becoming better business leaders. And so the whole point of you being here on a podcast is to impress our listeners. And if there's just the right person who needs your help to get to that next level with their scaling secrets or with their business development, then they can and should contact you. So how does a listener of our show know if they're the right fit for you? And if they are, then what's the next step? What's the call to action?
Great. I love it. So if you own a small business, you are an owner operator of a business, typically with less than $2 million in annual revenue. It's your full-time job. It's generating income, but you want to grow it. Then you could be perfect for SLAP, which is our program, the Silver Lining Action Plan. If that is helpful to you, SLAP is $300 a month, but we have an access for all policy, which means that if your economic reality is such that you can afford $300 a month, you name the amount you can pay. So SLAP is accessible for all small businesses from all backgrounds and all current economic realities. You just go to smallbizsilverlining.com. And there's places that you can sign up, fill out forms. There are phone numbers on there. So smallbizsilverlining.com. But what I would offer you is there's really no harm in accepting structure and support. And, if you use the structure and support we offer you at the amount you can afford to pay, you're going to see dramatic success. And I love, Robert, how you said it, right? That it is about the internal growth that goes along with the external growth, right? And those two things go hand in hand. And so we really need to activate this outside structure and support to hold ourselves accountable to our own growth so that we can then grow our business. And that's ultimately what SLAP is about. It's a really comprehensive program based in behavior change science to help small business owners do exactly that. And then if you're someone that's listening who has achieved more success than that financially, again, I want to say that very specifically because I think success comes in all sizes. But if you have grown a business beyond $5 million in revenue and you care about this topic and you want to help other small businesses, in particular those who have been marginalized and under-supported, we have a growing global community of Silver Lining advisors. And those Silver Lining advisors get profit share in our company in exchange for donating a small amount of time to get on calls and help small businesses succeed. And so we would love for you to consider finding us and joining us in that mission. So either use us and be a part of us to grow your business, or if you've achieved a level of success where you can give back, join us on our mission to make sure that more small businesses get the support they need to succeed.
Amazing and wonderful. Well, I can tell that you've thought this through and you created this very intriguing movement, this revolution. That way, us business owners that have all this potential, but maybe all the various obstacles, can get the structure figured out and can just get to where we need to go with your help with this SLAP system. And we can find out about it at smallbizsilverlining.com. And with all of your, just with your speaking and your learning and your doing, anything come to mind as far as a helpful quote or lesson to cap off and end our conversation? What floats to the top of your mindset as far as a quote or lesson?
So I'll say that the number one rule of is actions equal results. So if you like the results you're getting, do more of the actions you're taking. If you want to change the results you're getting, got to change your actions. But the one that really matters to me, it's actually, I think it's an African proverb. I've never been able to trace the source, but it says, pray and move your feet. Right? None of us have it all figured out. So there's prayer, you could replace with, affirmations or be connected to the universe or whatever you want to call it. Right? But stay humble is how I interpret it. Right? Acknowledge that there's something more out there. We're one part of it. We don't know everything. So stay connected to something bigger than us. But then move our feet, take action, move in the direction of the world we want every single day. And that combination of sort of staying connected to something bigger than ourselves, not letting ego or, superiority take over, but then staying in action, being conscious that we're moving in the direction of the outcome we want. I find that to be very grounding and very inspiring. So pray and move your feet, and your actions equal results.
Amazing and awesome. So it's inspiring and helpful to hear you say that. Carissa from smallbizsilverlining.com. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Robert. This is great. You asked such good questions. I love the conversation that we've ended up having. Thank you.
And you gave such good answers. So thank you right back to you.
Thank you.